I stumbled into the hospital, my heart pounding louder than the sirens that had brought me here. The automatic doors whooshed open, and a rush of fluorescent brightness hit me like a wall. A chaotic medley of beeping monitors, distant cries, and hurried footsteps filled the air, but all I could focus on was the triage nurse. Her eyebrows shot up when she caught sight of me, taking in the state of my sweater, soaked and splotched in crimson. "What happened?" she asked, urgency lacing her voice. I flinched. The answer caught in my throat. My name slipped from memory, but the silhouette of my husband loomed large in my mind, the man who'd made my home a battlefield. I fell, I managed to whisper, the words tasting sour and empty. In that moment, I couldn't look down at the angry bruises blooming on my forearms, physical reminders of another battle fought with David. Clutching my chest as if I could steady the storm inside, I fought the oncoming wave of panic. Everything felt surreal. The white walls, the sharp smell of antiseptic burning my throat, the fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. They guided me to a room that felt too small for my fear, its walls closing in, a stark contrast to the loud chaos of the emergency room. I wanted to flinch at the overhead lights, but even that seemed like a luxury I could not afford. "Take a seat, please," the nurse urged, but my body felt leaden. I feared the rattling door handle, feared what would unfold if David arrived. I had spent years fabricating stories, playing the role of the dutiful wife, but now, lying here, the truth felt unbearable, the last wall of defense against the world. Then he entered, a doctor, tall and steady, with eyes shadowed by fatigue yet brimming with something else, compassion. "I'm Dr. Ethan Rivera," he introduced himself. There was a gentleness in his demeanor that was foreign, yet instinctively I felt a flicker of hope, but still I hesitated. Vulnerability was not something I was accustomed to. "Can you tell me what's wrong?" he asked, his voice low, a steady anchor in the tide of my confusion. I wanted to scream, to voice the swirling emotions roiling inside, but they evaporated before I could catch them. "Do you feel safe at home?" he pressed, and instinctively I uttered a trembling yes, but my shaking hands said otherwise. They whispered secrets of sleepless nights filled with prayers for his absence, drenched in fear. "Your sweater, it's bloodied," he noted, his voice soft but firm. In that fleeting moment, I wondered if he saw through my lies, but I wasn't ready to break down. I forced a shaky laugh, a hollow sound masking the cracks in my facade. The glance he exchanged with the nurse, a subtle understanding, instantly shattered the fragile confidence I had clung to. The distant rumble of David's voice echoed somewhere beyond the door, strained with false concern. My heart thudded anew as I felt a storm of instinct rise within. This was not safe. I needed David to believe I was fine, unbroken. But as Dr. Rivera stepped closer, an unexpected warmth radiated from him, like a beacon of safety, an escape I hadn't dared to imagine. "Just a few more questions," he said gently, edging closer, the air between us thickening. I wished I could reassure him, my brain racing with desperate affirmations that everything was okay. Yet, the truth clawed at the edges of my composure like vines wrapping tightly, stifling my breath. "Your weight is down. You're quite dehydrated. I'm going to start an IV," he said, his voice steady. And though the idea of needles filled me with dread, I nodded slowly, surrendering to the faint hope that relief was coming, an embrace that promised to ease the storm inside. As he prepared the IV, I felt the weight of my truth pressing against me, the facade crumbling. Perhaps this was the moment to stop hiding, to face the whispered fears head-on. My heart raced, a mix of fear and the slightest ember of hope igniting within me. I desperately longed for safety, and for the first time, it seemed within reach. Laying back on the examination table, I closed my eyes, hoping that this would be my chance to reclaim my life. As the nurse entered with the IV supplies, the sterile scent of alcohol wipes cut through the haze of anxiety clinging to me. Dr. Rivera's hands moved with practiced efficiency, but I could see the tension in his jaw as he prepped the needle. "This might sting a bit," he said, his voice soft, almost reassuring. I forced myself to look away, focusing on the small framed landscape painting on the wall, a scene of tranquil mountains that felt so far removed from my reality. My thoughts flickered back to the last time I had tried to convince myself everything was okay, when David had taken me camping, promising I wouldn't need to worry about a thing. Looking back now, I remembered the panic that gripped me when he was supposed to stoke the campfire, but ended up blaming me for it when I asked him to stop drinking. I didn't want a repeat of those blurred boundaries. My heart raced at the thought of David's anger if he found out I was here, safe from him. "Okay, I'm going to insert the needle now," Dr. Rivera said, his voice pulling me from my reverie. I looked down just in time to see the glint of metal catch the light. The pinch was sharp, momentary, and I gasped involuntarily, my instinct urging me to pull away. "Hey, you're okay," he said, his voice soothing, but I was still lost. The needle prick dulled as the cool saline flooded my veins, bringing with it an odd mixture of relief and vulnerability. I inhaled deeply, feeling the anticipation of calm as the nurse taped the IV line secure. "There we go," she said, smiling lightly as she stepped back to monitor the IV. "Now, we'll monitor your vitals and keep you hydrated," Dr. Rivera stated, his eyes scanning over the charts on the clipboard as he took a seat beside the bed. "Can I ask you a few more questions?" I nodded, but deep within, I felt the weight of dread settle once more. I was about to unveil my scars, not the ones visible to the eye, but the ones buried deep where my soul lingered in torment. "Do you have someone you can trust to stay with you while you're healing?" He shot the question softly, gauging my reaction like a tightrope walker nearing the end of the line. "No," I confessed, the truth spilling out before I could catch it. "My family, they don't understand. Have you told them about what's happening?" He pressed, his eyes unflinching as they met mine. Swallowing hard, I shook my head. I didn't want them to worry. People who care about you should know. "They won't," I interrupted, frustration bubbling up, mixing fear and determination. "They'll just think I'm overreacting. They always have." For a moment, he was quiet, the tension in the air palpable. I feared having ruined what fragile connection was blossoming. My chest tightened with panic and I braced myself for his disappointment. But instead, he leaned in a fraction closer, revealing an intensity that caught me off guard. "I believe you," he said gently, breaking through the curtain of my fears. His words felt like a gift, fragile yet profound, but doubt still lingered at the edges of my consciousness. "You don't even know me," I murmured, the truth heavy on my tongue. "No, but I know the signs. I see the bruises, and I can see the hurt in your eyes," he pointed out, his voice unwavering, resonating with an understanding that felt profoundly rare. I felt tears sting my eyes, and in an act of instinct I blinked them away. "What if he finds me?" I whispered, my mind flashing to David's face, his anger, the last time everything spiraled violently out of control. The doctor's expression hardened a bit, compassion mixed with resolve. "You're safe now, and we have protocols to keep you safe from him." I scoffed lightly, dismissively wrapping my arms around my body to ward off the chill. "Protocols don't help when you're living with a monster. The system can help us handle this. I'll make sure you're protected," he reassured softly. But even as the words settled, a darker thought invaded my mind. More than the physical betrayal, I feared the emotional fallout, the aftermath of revealing the truth. realizing I was longer tethered to my fear, and David's power waning. Before I could respond, the door swung open, and a uniformed security guard strolled in, the confidence radiating from him like heat off the pavement. "Dr. Rivera, we need to discuss the situation outside," he stated. His eyes narrowed slightly as they darted toward me. "Excuse us for a moment, doctor." Rivera nodded to the nurse, who stepped out with the guard, leaving me in the small room, trembling slightly on the examination table. My heart began to race, the sense of impending danger rising. Was David here? Was he about to burst through that door and turn everything upside down once more? I shifted nervously, my mind racing as I waited. Had I made the wrong choice? Would the doctor truly protect me? The minutes stretched long, but eventually the door creaked open again, and Dr. Rivera re-entered with a determination in his eyes that put me on alert. "Listen," he said, taking a seat across from me. "David was seen outside the hospital, and we're going to file a report right now. You need to be prepared for what comes next." The finality of his words crashed over me like waves against crumbling rocks. The quiet room amplified the pounding of my heart, but deep beneath the turmoil, one undeniable truth emerged. I wasn't alone in this battle anymore. Dr. Rivera's presence seemed to fog the air with urgency, and the reality of my situation felt almost insurmountable. I ran a shaky hand through my hair, gripping it tightly as if holding on could somehow ground me. "What happens if he finds me?" The question slipped out, trembling, as panic clawed at my throat. "We have protocols for that. Security is tighter now, and the police are on alert," he assured. But I could hear the slight tremor behind his words. I searched his eyes, desperate for a flicker of assurance, but all I felt was the crushing weight of uncertainty. Suddenly, the door swung open again, drawing my attention. A tall woman entered, her badge identifying her as a social worker. "I'm Lisa Chen," she introduced herself, her tone warm yet professional. "I'm here to help you navigate what comes next." "Help?" I asked, skepticism rising in my chest. It felt like another empty promise, yet I could see the resolve in her gaze that made me want to believe. "Yes, we need to establish a safety plan for you," Lisa continued, pulling a chair closer. "I can help you find resources, counseling, even a safe place to stay if you need it." "No," I shook my head, the words sounding harsher than I intended. "I can't just run away. What if he finds me? I need to deal with this myself." "Sarah," Dr. Rivera interjected gently, "you don't have to handle this alone. Your safety is paramount, and avoiding the issue isn't going to protect you." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Deep down, I knew I had spent too long convincing myself of my own strength, the facade of independence standing in the way of the truth. I was terrified. "Let's talk about your options," Lisa suggested softly, crossing her arms in a gesture of understanding. "You've already taken the hardest step by coming here. You're not at fault for what's happening. You deserve support." Her words pierced me, and I felt a rush of emotions flood my system, tears threatening at the corners of my eyes. "I don't know how I got here," I confessed, my voice cracking. "I thought it would be different. I thought it would stop." "Does he threaten you?" Lisa asked, her voice steady as she searched my eyes. I squeezed them shut and blinked away the impending tears. "Not in words," I replied, the fear evident in my voice. "But he controls everything. I'm not even allowed to go out without asking first. I don't have friends anymore. He made sure of that. I feel trapped." "That's manipulation," Dr. Rivera said softly. "You didn't choose to be in this situation. You deserve to be treated with respect and compassion." I swallowed the lump in my throat, the suffocating reality clawing at my insides. Lisa continued, "Part of what we can do is help you evaluate your options. He may seem like he has all the power, but you have rights. You can report this, and you have the power to choose your future." But what if he doesn't let me go? I murmured, the fear weighing heavily on my shoulders, threatening to crush me under its weight. The very thought of David finding me felt unbearable, like a nightmare playing out in real life. Sarah, Dr. Rivera said gently, leaning closer, the best way to fight someone like him is to stand strong. Taking control of your situation is the first step. I'll be with you. You won't have to face this alone. The sincerity in his voice almost unmoored me, and for a fleeting moment I felt a flicker of hope. What happens after we file a report? I asked, sensing my pulse quickening. After that, the police will assess your situation and we can take legal action, like a restraining order. You have options, Lisa explained, her demeanor calm and reassuring. Just then, I heard voices from outside the room, one of them unmistakably familiar. David. A surge of adrenaline kicked in, and I looked at the door, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. Stay calm, Dr. Rivera instructed, his voice sharp with authority. Just remember, you're safe here. What if he comes in? I hissed, fear paralyzing me. He won't. We have security. There was confidence in his tone, but it faltered slightly as he glanced at the door, then back to me. I'll be honest, this might get complicated, but I'm not going to let him hurt you again. Moments stretched unbearably, the tension coiling tighter as the voices grew louder. My breath quickened as I imagined David's face, filled with rage and accusation. Would he burst through the door, or would he stop himself at the threshold, claiming false concern? Then, with a knock that echoed against the wall, the door swung open once more, and a security guard entered, glancing around the room before settling on Dr. Rivera. We need to go over the report now, he said, urgency lacing his voice. All right, give us a moment, Dr. Rivera replied, his eyes flicking to me. You'll be all right, Sarah, just hold tight. The guard stepped back, and I could see the tension in Dr. Rivera's shoulders. It was a reminder that I was running out of time, and I needed to make a decision. I felt cornered, the walls closing in, but I knew I couldn't turn back. Do you have what you need? Lisa asked, her eyes searching mine, a flicker of determination sparking between us. I nodded slowly. I wasn't ready, not really, but I was tired of living in the shadows. It was time to step into the light, even if it was terrifying. Yes, I'm ready. And for the first time, my voice held conviction. Time felt like molasses as I sat with Dr. Rivera and Lisa in the small room. The air was thick with the weight of my decision. I'm going to start the report, Dr. Rivera said, his demeanor shifting into full professional mode. I'll need you to be honest with me, Sarah. This is crucial. I nodded, steeling myself. My heart raced with the realization that each detail I divulged was a step toward rebuilding my life. Okay, I whispered, forcing the word through a throat tight with anxiety. Good. Let's start with David. When did the abuse begin? He asked, his clipboard poised and ready. Taking a slow breath, I focused on a point on the wall, an abstract representation of wind-blown trees that seemed to sway with each beat of my heart. It started with little things, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. At first, it was just jokes, controlling how I dressed, who I talked to. I thought it was just him caring, you know? I understand, Dr. Rivera encouraged gently, his gaze steady. What happened next? Then it escalated, I continued, feeling the walls of my self-imposed prison start to crack as I let the memories unfold one by one. He hit me for the first time last year. He claimed I made him angry. I thought maybe if I could just do things right, it wouldn't happen again. My voice weakened, punctuated with the shame I had grown accustomed to carrying. Did you seek help? Lisa asked, her tone filled with empathy. I hesitated, my pulse racing. I was too scared. I thought I would make it worse if I told anyone. That's a common feeling, Dr. Rivera said, his expression softening. "But this isn't your fault. You're not alone anymore." As I spoke, something shifted inside me, a drop of courage crystallizing in the wreckage of fear. With each word, I sensed the beginning of something new, a reclaiming of my narrative, the raw truth that had once felt like a weight too heavy to lift. After that, he would just tighten his grip on everything, my phone, my friends. I was so isolated. I couldn't see a way out, I admitted. "Look at me," Dr. Rivera said, firm yet gentle. I met his gaze, his eyes fierce with determination. "You have a choice now, and you have options. It's time to take your power back." The edginess in my heart surged as he spoke, igniting a fire I thought had long extinguished. "I want to be free," I said, the longing in my voice resonating louder than any words before. "I just don't know how." "We'll figure that out together," Lisa chimed in, a reassuring smile dancing on her lips. "Everything you share now can lead to action. We'll establish a safety plan." "First things first," Dr. Rivera resumed, jotting notes as he organized our thoughts. "You mentioned he threatens you physically. Has he ever followed through?" I took a shaky breath, swallowing hard as memories flooded back, each bruise a reminder of his twisted affection. "He has," I confessed, the truth cutting deep. "There have been a few times when I thought I wouldn't make it out of there alive." A heavy silence fell over the room. I could see the weight of my words settle with gravity in their expressions, an unspoken acknowledgement. "That's why we need to act. It's crucial that we file this report with the authorities and get a restraining order," Dr. Rivera said, his voice carrying resolve. I nodded, something believing that this was a turning point. "What happens after? Will he know I reported him?" "Yes, but he won't find you. The hospital will provide you with resources that will help us protect you," Lisa assured me, sensing my hesitation. "Part of the process is moving to a safe location, if necessary," Dr. Rivera added. "We can help you find a shelter or another safe house if it comes to that." "That's a big step," I murmured, uncertainty tugging at the edges of my mind. "It's a step towards freedom," Lisa reminded me, her voice unwavering. "I understand it's a lot to take in. These changes will not happen overnight, and that's okay. But the important part is you're not brushing it under the rug anymore." Just as the gravity of our conversation settled heavily in the air, the door creaked open. A nurse popped her head in, breaking the tension with a soft smile. "I'm here to check on you, Sarah. How are you feeling?" "Terrified," I replied, the confession catching me off guard. But in the presence of these newfound allies, vulnerability felt safe, and saying it aloud freed something within me. "That's perfectly normal given everything you're going through," she said, pulling up a chair beside me, revealing a caring demeanor that made the sterile hospital room feel warmer. "But you're doing the right thing by talking about it. Each word you say is strength." I allowed myself a small smile of gratitude. "Thank you." Dr. Rivera glanced at the nurse thoughtfully before continuing. "We're finishing up the report, and once that's done, we'll get you settled. The sooner we make this official, the sooner you can begin to heal." The weight of the world felt slightly lighter as I absorbed his words. "Okay," I agreed, determination mingling with trepidation. "Let's finish this. There's something I'd like to discuss with you," Dr. Rivera said, shifting his gaze back to me. "But it's best that we keep this conversation going while you feel safe and stable. The next steps will involve some legal discussions and planning further safety measures." I nodded, realizing that every detail mattered. My safety depended on it. As the nurse assisted with the necessary medical checks, I took a breath, trying to drown out the sound of David's voice lurking in the back of my mind. It was time to silence the fear, to step out of the shadows of his grip. I wasn't just talking to people. I was laying the groundwork for my new beginning. By the time we completed the report, a sense of clarity lit a path through the cloud of uncertainty. I was no longer the woman hiding in the dark. I was a survivor, ready to embrace the fight for my own life. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady as I looked at both Dr. Rivera and Lisa, "for believing in me. This is the first time I felt heard." "You deserve to be heard, Sarah. Always," Dr. Rivera said, his eyes firm and compassionate. "You are not alone." And for the first time, being surrounded by understanding felt like a beacon of hope, guiding me toward a brighter horizon. I sat on the edge of the hospital bed, my heart racing with anticipation and dread, like a pendulum swinging between hope and fear. The last few hours had felt surreal, each moment teetering on the edge of change, but I could still hear David's words echoing in my ears, the threat cloaked in affection. As I sat there, wrapped in the thin hospital gown that felt both foreign and familiar, the enormity of what I was attempting began to weigh heavily on me. Would I really go through with this? The darkness inside me whispered doubts, ancient fears that crept back like shadows. Just then, the door swung open and Dr. Rivera walked back in. His expression showed a mix of resolve and concern, and my stomach twisted nervously. "I wanted to inform you that we're taking additional precautions. After what we just discussed, your safety is priority number one." The energy in the room shifted, and I felt a slight chill crawl up my spine as I processed his words. "What do you mean?" I asked warily. "The security team has alerted us that David made a scene in the waiting room, claiming he was there to check on you." Dr. Rivera's voice was even, but I could see the tension rippling beneath the surface. My breath hitched in my throat. "Is he here?" I could feel panic rising inside me, claws digging into my lungs. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling like a fragile shell about to crack. "No, but he's not far," Dr. Rivera confirmed, his voice flat but urgent. "We've had to implement a shield. Security will be on watch at every possible exit, and if he attempts to approach, well, let's just say we won't let him get anywhere near you." I leaned back against the stiff mattress, swallowing hard. "What if he finds a way? He always has before." "That's why we have you under our protection right now," he replied. "But we need to act fast. We're ready to submit the report and have officers escort you if necessary." The gravity of his words hit me. This was real. There was no turning back. I was finally taking a stand, risking everything. Lisa returned to the room, carrying a stack of papers and a determined look. She caught the tail end of our conversation and interjected. "We have a plan in place to ensure you're accompanied at every step. You're not going to face this alone, Sarah." The conviction in her voice offered a glimmer of security. "Thank you," I murmured, the warmth of her encouragement helping me break free from the ice that had been wrapping around my heart. Dr. Rivera glanced at me, a flicker of something concern, admiration, crossing his eyes. "Do you feel ready to proceed?" I took a deep breath, my heart racing as my determination strengthened. "Yes, I am." I could feel the weight of the words, a commitment, a vow to be strong. "All right. We need to get you ready. The police will be here shortly to take your statement," Dr. Rivera instructed, his tone all business now. Lisa and I exchanged a look of solidarity. She was my anchor in this storm. As we got up to prepare, I heard the faint sound of commotion outside the door. The primary barrier between us and David was becoming increasingly tentative. Suddenly, the door swung open and a uniformed police officer stepped inside, his presence brisk yet calm. "Hi, I'm Officer Daniels. We're here to escort you during the next steps and to ensure your safety." I looked at him, swallowing hard at the sight of the badge that represented authority, an ally in this daunting journey. "Thank you," I managed to say. "First things first," he said, addressing me directly. "We'll accompany you wherever you need to go. This is your decision, but know that we're here to support you completely." Before I could respond, I heard raised voices from the hallway. My heart threatened to break free from my chest as I turned towards the sound, adrenaline surging through me. "What's happening?" I asked, my hands clammy and cold. The officer's expression hardened as he moved toward the door, motioning for Dr. Rivera and Lisa to stay behind me. "Stay put. Let me handle this." I could feel the tension building like a string pulled too tight, my breath hitching at the thought of David storming in. What could he possibly want? Would he plead? Would he lash out? Suddenly, there was a flurry of noise and I glimpsed a shadow pass by the window. The door flew open again and another security officer stepped in, clearly distressed. "We need to lock down the area. He's making threats in the waiting room." Panic surged through me. "Please don't let him get in here," I cried, my voice higher than intended, fear clawing at my throat. "Sarah," Dr. Rivera's voice cut through my terror, grounding me. "You're safe. This isn't going to happen. I promise you that. We're going to protect you." Everyone sprang into action, voices rising in urgency as the officer moved to the door, preparing to contain the situation. "You'll need to come with me, Sarah. We can't stay here right now." "Well, where will we go?" I stammered, feeling the world spin slightly as chaos unfurled around me. "We'll get you to a secure location. Just stay close to me," Officer Daniels instructed. The warmth of Dr. Rivera's presence lingered, and I caught his eyes one last time. "I'll be right behind you. We're not leaving you alone." There was fierce determination written on his face, and his words provided a lifeline as I moved toward the door, my heart pounding. The hallway was a blur of activity. The tension was palpable as officers and security guards ushered me toward a different exit, away from the chaos brewing in the waiting room. My head spun with questions, doubts, and an overwhelming urge to flee the reality of what I was facing. As I stepped outside, the bright sunlight struck my eyes, and I sheltered them with my hands instinctively. Shadows lurked in the corners of my mind, shadows that had haunted me for too long. "This way," Officer Daniels said, his voice cutting through my haze. I followed, hoping desperately that this was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with freedom from David's oppressive grasp. I could see the squad car waiting, a bright beacon of safety in my darkest hour. I turned back, searching for a glimpse of Dr. Rivera, and my breath caught when I met his gaze. It was steady, filled with an unwavering faith in my strength, an encouragement I couldn't have imagined would become my armor. As we reached the squad car, I climbed into the back seat, the metallic scent of the interior mingling with my racing thoughts. I had so much to do, so many steps ahead of me, but as the door shut, sealing in both fear and hope, I felt that something had shifted in me. This was my fight to win. As the door of the squad car closed with a decisive click, I felt a rush of cold air triggering my senses, grounding me in the moment. The adrenaline coursing through my veins thrummed like an electric current, pulsing both fear and resolve in equal measure. Officer Daniels settled into the driver's seat, turning around briefly to check on me before starting the engine. "Buckle up, Sarah. We're heading to a safe location," he said, his tone authoritative yet reassuring. I clasped the seatbelt, my fingers tremoring as I clicked it into place, feeling the confinement of the harness hold me steady. Everything about this moment felt monumental. This wasn't just a ride. It was an escape from a life that had become a relentless nightmare. As the tires crunched against the gravel of the parking lot, I stole a glance at the hospital, its tall facade fading out of view, taking with it memories that still stung like fresh wounds. I had survived the initial stages, but now there was a gnawing fear threatening to swallow me whole. What would happen next? Would David track me down? The unknown loomed larger than life. Just breathe, Daniel said after a few beats of silence, clearly noticing my anxiety. We'll keep you safe. Your statement is crucial and the police will help you get a restraining order. Will he try to come after me? I asked, fear tightening my chest, and I pressed my lips together, bracing for his answer. He might, but we're prepared for that. We have a plan, he replied, his tone steadfast. You're not alone in this, okay? You're doing the right thing, and we will have officers assigned to you around the clock. The reassurance offered me a sliver of comfort, but it also made me wrestle with doubt. How could I ever feel safe again? I glanced out of the window, watching the world move by in a blur of colors. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, a stark contrast to the turmoil still raging within me. We cruised through the streets and my heart fluttered in my chest as we approached the outskirts of the city. Officer Daniels turned on the radio, filling the air with low, casual chatter that somehow felt both comforting and distracting. But as the vehicle turned onto a quieter road, my anxiety resurfaced, creeping back like the encroaching shadows of that ominous fear. What if he finds me? I voiced, my hand shaking slightly on my lap. Right now, that's a what if. We'll discuss every angle to ensure your safety. The moment's yours to reclaim, Sarah, he reassured me. His words settled with me, each one resonating and lightening the burden pressing down on my shoulders. This was my decision, my escape. I had to see this through. After what felt like an eternity, we arrived at a discreet house nestled among tall trees, far from prying eyes. A heavy veil of calm washed over me as I stepped out of the squad car and took in the surroundings. This notion of a safe haven, this was a new beginning. Are you ready for this? Officer Daniels asked, eyeing me with genuine concern, and I caught a glimmer of humanity behind his badge. I took a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill my lungs. I think so, I said, and with that I stepped toward the door without looking back. Inside, the space was simple yet welcoming. A modest couch sat in a cozy living area, and sunlight streamed through the blinds, bathing the room in warmth. I took a moment to absorb everything, appreciating the fact that I was standing in a place where I could finally breathe without the weight of David's oppression. Let me introduce you to someone who can help with the next steps, Daniel said before leading me into another room. To my surprise, I found a woman sitting at a desk, organizing papers methodically. She looked up at us and broke into a gentle smile. Hi, I'm Rachel, the social worker assigned to support you during this transition. Hi, I managed, feeling a flutter of trepidation. Thank you for being here, I added, trying to fill the silence that felt so heavy. Of course, she replied warmly. You've made a brave decision, Sarah, and we're here to ensure you feel supported every step of the way. Daniels glanced at me before leaving to handle whatever paperwork awaited him at the car. Alone with Rachel, I felt a wave of gratitude mingle with splintered anxiety. What does the next step entail? I asked, intent on grounding myself. We'll work together to create a safety plan tailored for you. This includes resources for counseling, exploring housing options, and setting up a support network for both emotional and practical help, Rachel explained, her demeanor calming as she focused on me. I nodded, still processing the reality of where I was, but her words began to pull me out of the haze of uncertainty. I'm scared, I admitted, my voice wavering slightly. What if things don't get better? What if he finds me? That fear is completely valid, Rachel said, her eyes filled with understanding. But it's also important to know that you're taking all the right steps toward reclaiming your life. You have support, not just from law enforcement, but here as well. You don't have to carry this alone. The shadows of doubt began to lift under her gaze, allowing a spark of hope to flicker to life within me. Thank you, I said. the sincerity of my gratitude flooding my words. As Rachel outlined the various resources available, I felt a growing sense of determination rising within me. Maybe it was possible to break free of the chains that had held me back for so long. Then, just as she delved deeper into a discussion about therapy options, the door suddenly burst open and Officer Daniels returned, his expression taut with urgency. "We have an issue," he said, scanning the room. "David has been spotted nearby. We need to finalize our safety measures now." A wave of dread washed over me, and in that moment I felt like the ground beneath my feet had shifted, leaving me teetering on the edge of a bleak abyss. "Let's move quickly," Rachel said, her voice steady but her demeanor shifted into action mode. "Sarah, stay close to us," Officer Daniels ordered as fear flickered in my chest. I nodded, locking eyes with Rachel as we prepared to navigate this precarious situation together. This was my fight, to find my way back to myself and to ensure that the chains of fear would never bind me again. I would face whatever was on the horizon, knowing that I was no longer alone. As we moved swiftly through the house, adrenaline coursing through my veins, I felt the strength and resolve that had begun to awaken within me transform into a fierce fire. This was my stand. This was the moment I reclaimed my freedom. My heart raced as we moved through the house, the adrenaline tingling in my fingertips. "What should we do?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but the tremor betrayed my fear. "We have a safe room we can use until we have more clarity on David's whereabouts," Officer Daniels said, leading the way, his demeanor imbued with urgency. "But we need to be on alert. Rachel, I'll need you to gather some essentials for Sarah while I monitor the situation." "Absolutely," she replied, her expression firm. I could see the gears turning in her mind, strategizing and preparing as if this were a military operation. As we approached the back of the house, Daniels paused, scanning the surroundings through a window. "Okay, I see movement outside," he murmured, tightening his grip on his radio. "Stay here." "Can you see who it is?" I whispered, creeping up to the window beside him, catching a glimpse of a figure lingering beyond the trees, a dark silhouette, shadowed but unmistakable. "I can't confirm, but it looks like it could be him," Daniels replied, a note of caution edging into his voice. My breath quickened at the thought. David was close, and despite all the preparations, uncertainty gripped me once more. Rachel brushed past us, a collection of emergency items gathered in her arms, a few changes of clothing, my phone, and a small first aid kit. "We need to move quickly. I'll take care of the essentials while you stay alert outside." Fear pulsed through me as she opened a hidden door that led to the safe room. It was small, claustrophobic even, reinforced as a retreat from danger. "In here, Sarah," she urged gently. "It's important you stay quiet." Hesitating, I looked at the door, my last barrier from the world outside. But that world no longer offered safety. I stepped inside, the stark walls echoing the heavy silence. "Is this really going to work?" I asked, doubt creeping into my voice as the door closed behind me. "Trust me," Rachel said, her eyes fierce and unyielding. "You are safe here." Just then, my phone buzzed impatiently in her hand, breaking the tension. In an instant, it felt as if the world around me had frozen. The worry churned with expectation. Rachel glanced at my phone, her brow furrowed. "It's a text," she said, frowning before revealing the screen. It was a picture message, an image of me taken outside the hospital, the undeniable silhouette of David lurking nearby, eyes dark with intent. "Damn it," I muttered, my heart sinking. Rachel cursed under her breath and handed me the phone, her voice earnest. "We need to inform Daniels. Just stay calm." I barely registered what she said. My thoughts raced. They felt disjointed, echoing with fragmented fears. "He can't know where I am. He can't. We'll take care of it, I promise, Rachel assured, her grip firm on my shoulder. Let's focus on what's next. What do you want to do? We can decide how to handle this. I want him stopped, I said, bitterness creeping into my voice. The thought of David's existence threatening my future ignited a fire inside me. I want to file that restraining order. I want him to pay for everything he's done. Rachel nodded, and determination lit up her eyes. That's the spirit. But we need to ensure your safety first, and that's priority. Then we can focus on the legal side. We'll have the police here to handle the situation, and they'll secure the grounds before we move. You are not a victim anymore. This is your fight. Just then, a loud banging on the front door rattled through the house, the sound almost deafening. I jumped, fear coursing through me, the adrenaline like a live wire in my bloodstream. "That's him," I whispered, panic spilling into my voice. "He's found us." "Stay hidden," Rachel instructed, tension ricocheting off her words as she edged toward the door, her phone in hand. "I'll alert Officer Daniels immediately." "Wait," I started to protest, but the urgency gripped me, making me mute. In the tense moments that followed, my thoughts spiraled as I heard Rachel whisper into her phone, relaying details in urgent tones. The banging escalated, voice rising. David's. "I know you're in there, Sarah. Let me in." Hate flowed through me, mingling fear and anger. He wouldn't stop. He never had before. "Sarah?" Rachel's voice cut through my haze, and I realized how tightly my fists clenched, the rage brewing inside me. "We have to remain quiet. Wait for help. It's only a matter of time." The door shifted as David pressed against it. "You can't hide forever. Open this door." I backed away, pressing further into the corner. My heart raced, each beat thrumming like a warning bell in my ears. "What if he gets in?" I whispered, panic clawing at my throat. Rachel stepped back, her expression serious. "He won't. Trust me. They'll handle it. Just remember why you're here, why you chose to stand up." With each word, I felt a flicker of strength reigniting, a fire born of hope and anger. "I want him to know I'm not his anymore," I said quietly, the realization solidifying like steel within me, more pounding. "This is your last chance. Let me in," David yelled, fury mingled with frustration. "Stay calm," Rachel reminded, though I could see her determination harden into something fierce. "Breathe, Sarah. We are doing this together." I nodded, the spiraling doubt finding a purchase in the fierce resolve taking root in my chest. I was ready to fight for my freedom, to tackle the toxicity that had seeped into every crevice of my life. As Rachel stood near me, poised and unyielding, I knew I wasn't alone anymore. "Help is on the way," I murmured, reassuring myself just as much as Rachel. "Damn right it is," she replied, a fierce smile playing on her lips. And for the first time, despite the chaos outside, I felt a sense of empowerment growing within me, my spirit reclaiming its rightful place. I would face David not as a victim, but as a woman fiercely reclaiming her own life. This was my moment, my fight, and I wasn't going to back down. I steadied my breath as David's voice thundered against the door. "I know you're in there, Sarah. Let me in." My heart pounded, a mix of anger and fear coursing through me. "Sarah?" Rachel's voice broke the haze, and I realized how tightly my fists were clenched, rage surging within. "We have to remain quiet. Help is on the way." I backed against the wall, panic clawing at my throat. What if he gets in? I couldn't shake the thought. The door trembled under his weight. "He won't get past us," Rachel reassured, her eyes unwavering. "Just remember why you're here." With each word of encouragement, a flicker of strength ignited within me. "I want him to know I'm not his anymore," I whispered, the realization solidifying in my chest. "Open this door. This is your last chance," David yelled, frustration thick in his voice. "Stay calm," Rachel urged. "Breathe, Sarah. You're not alone." Nodding, I felt my resolve solidify. I was ready to fight for my freedom, to break free from the grip of his toxicity. With Rachel by my side, the certainty of my choices began to empower me. "Help is coming," I murmured, feeling the flicker of hope catch fire. "Damn right it is," she replied, determination radiating from her. For the first time in too long, I began to feel my spirit reclaim its place. When Officer Daniels entered, flanked by colleagues, a wave of relief washed over me. "Is everyone all right?" he asked, scanning the room. "We're okay, but David is still a threat," Rachel informed him, determination in her voice. "Sarah, we're going to escort you out of here safely, but we need to prepare for any potential confrontation," Daniel said. "I'm not afraid," I said, surprising myself. There was power in my voice, a steady conviction that I hadn't felt in years. "Good," he said, respect layered in his tone. "Stay close and we'll handle this." With a shared look of understanding, we moved toward the door. The chaos outside felt tangible, but no longer an unscalable wall. I was stepping into a new life, choosing my own path forward. As we stepped into the sunlight, a surge of determination propelled me. "Let's go," I said firmly. "I'm ready." Together, we emerged into a world renewed with possibility. I had faced my fears, understood my worth, and committed to reclaiming my life. This was my moment, my fight, and I would not back down. This was the beginning of my new chapter.